Awesome. All right. Clark, I believe you are on the call right now. Let me double check there. But if you'd like to take
Is that our
over.
special guest?
I know.
Our special guest
No,
is
there's
Clark.
another one. There's two. There's two.
There are two special guests today.
Clark is very special.
I am the boring special guest. And the one delivering bad news or the reminder of the deadline that is looming. 3/31, 1 week from today, everything is due. So that is whole shebang assignments 1 through 6 you should have turned in and at a grade of 1. You have the auto grader. The auto grader will tell you for 4, 5, and 6, did you pass the assignment? So you really should be turning it in with a grade, and knowing you are going to have a grade of 1. For all its faults of the auto grader, I think it's very relieving to know you're done. When that auto grader tells you you're done, you are definitely done. If you turn in something that is not done, the TAs will throw it back at you, and we'll have a conversation like, did you make an actual good faith attempt? Is it a minor fix? But if it is a major fix, I probably will not be able to pass you on to Unit 2. And I really want to pass you on to Unit 2. So, turn things in on time. I will probably not be giving very many more extensions. If you think you need an extension, this is about the last time to ask. When people ask for extensions, I take a look at our interactions. I take a look at your assignment turn-in history, and I look and see, like, have you been attending class? If you've been attending class, good chance you're going to get an extension. If you're here tonight, feel pretty good. If you haven't been attending class, if your assignment submissions have been sporadic, I don't know that I can give you an extension. So that's the reality of it. Other thing is, your TAs, be kind to them these next 2 weeks. They are going to be doing a lot. Turn in things as soon as you finish. Do not sit on assignments. So as soon as you finish assignment 5, get it in. As soon as you finish assignment 6, get it in. Don't necessarily wait if you don't have to. That lets them grade things, as it comes in, and they don't have to grade all 17 of your assignments at midnight on Thursday. I do not pay them enough to grade things at midnight on Thursday. I see a question. Blake, is that? Yep, Blake. What's going on?
Yes, thank you, Clark. So I am, my assignment 5 is failing a couple of the unit tests. And as I was working through them, I was able to clear some of them passed. But as of last night, for some reason, for assignment 5, my auto grader is not returning anything anymore. It's not.
So try again now. We had an issue of an interruption with GitHub Classroom last night. Or probably between, if you ran anything between, I would say about 3 o'clock yesterday till about 2 p.m. today, the autograder has probably stopped running.
Okay.
Sorry to interrupt, but it is working now. I just tested it.
Awesome. Thank you. I'm glad. Thank you for that confirmation. So it should be working now. You should be able to just rerun the jobs. I think it's in the upper right-hand corner of the, putting me on the spot. In the upper right-hand corner of the autograder pane, there's a chance to rerun the jobs without making a new commit. Or you can always make a new commit of a minor change to restart the autograder. So yes, you identified a real issue, but it is fixed.
All right, thank you very much, Clark.
Yeah, awesome. Any other questions about that? Another piece of news, I will be switching up groups for Unit 2. I know that this is going to devastate some of you because you've created bonds with your groups and with your TAs. I'm doing this kind of as a practical purpose. Some of our wonderful TAs can't continue on into Unit 2, and some of the groups have lost members disproportionately. So in order to keep each TA having a manageable number and equal number of students, I got to do some rearranging. This does not mean you cannot talk to your original group. Please, if you've created bonds, please continue fostering them. It's awesome. This is a chance. Think of this as a chance to continue expanding your network. You are getting to create bonds and learn new working styles with a whole new group of humans. And that's pretty dang exciting. So, you know, you're going to get to work with a new set. You can still come to your old TA with problems. You can come to, like I continue to say, you can come to any TA with issues. So if you want to set up a Calendly meeting with your old TA, reach out to them. They can accommodate you, or shouldn't speak for them. They will try to accommodate you. If you made a really good friendship, please, you guys have the power to create Slack channels. So if you have a core group of friends, please create a Slack channel just for y'all to talk, for you all to, obviously, you have that power to create and maintain those bonds. So I really want you to think of this as a chance to expand your network. You will know about your new groups sometime in the week of the break. So as a reminder, class ends May 31st, March, oof. I was up until very, very late last night doing something, and boy, howdy, it shows. March 31st. April 1st through April 11th are days off. April 11th is Unit 2 begins. Sometime after April 7th, your new group will be published. And after April 4th, the Java curriculum on Canvas will go live, so you can take a look at that. So that is kind of the extent of my announcements. Any questions about those? Hearing none, I am going to pass it back to Kyle.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you very much, Clark. All right, let's go and start sharing that. So, welcome everyone. Again, yes, Clark broke the news for me, so that was nice. That we are in, yeah, it is coming up here, that drop deadline. It is not a joke, so make sure that you continue to ask questions. I know I've been meeting with a lot of students here and there to help out with all the assignments that anyone might be just having any kind of struggle or knowledge gap in. So remember to keep putting time on my Calendarly, keep reaching out to me. Again, if your Angular stuff's not working also, something like that, feel free to direct message me. All right, that being said, let's hop into this real quick for an Angular part 2. Everybody ready for another round? I'm gonna say last round, but not really last round, but one more round. We're gonna go ahead and quickly do just an announcement on my end here. So announcements, first things first, I'm gonna get rid of that bubble there. Can everyone see my screen? Did I start sharing right? Yeah, absolutely. Cool. So not do a few things there. I'm sorry, let me put this on there. Participants, awesome. There we go. All right, so a few things on my end here. Announcements. So as Clark already mentioned, get started on assignment number 6. Please. After tonight, you have gotten most of the knowledge there to complete that. Again, assignment 6 is not like those heavy hitters like 3 and 5, but it does require some time. You do have to go through it, and it will just help. Angular, as we know, can be sometimes a pain to work with. So just make sure you're hopping to that. Get it done so that stress is off your shoulders. So definitely at least start to look at it at the bare minimum. All right, as you already know, studio review will be tonight at 8 o'clock. Feel free to stop by, say hi, and review this studio. And then finally, a quick thing to you all, and this is the day I've been dreading. We are going to be moving on to Unit 2. As you already know, that drop deadline is there. Once you get across that, you turn in assignment 6, you have ones across the board. You're moving into to Unit number 2. So it comes with a heavy heart that I have to tell you all that I will not be your instructor for Unit 2, unfortunately. Due to some personal things, I cannot contribute the time that I want to and need to in order to teach you all Unit 2 material the best. So to do that, Clark has found an amazing replacement for me, and I want to introduce you all to her tonight. So let me go ahead and stop sharing here my screen real quick. And Kristen, if you want to go ahead and say hi, I believe you can unmute yourself.
Yeah, it actually did let me unmute myself. Hi, everybody. Like Kyle said, I'm Kristen. I have been in your shoes. I went through code camp myself with Clark, actually. We were in the same class. And ironically, Sean was one of my first students when I was a TA. So hopefully you're in good hands. This is going to be my fourth class, fourth class, 4.5. Or 3.5, yeah, 4.5. I don't know. I've lost count. That's kind of the point. I've been through JavaScript 3 times. Been through Java twice. I've been through C# twice. So you're in good hands. I know the curriculum. But yeah, if you guys have any questions, I'm already on the Slack. Feel free to reach out to me. Consider me an extra set of hands while you guys are finishing up these last couple of assignments. I know these last weeks are panic. But yeah, starting April 11th, you guys get to put up with me. No,
I have
Sean.
a question, of course.
No
Do you like
questions.
emos?
No,
Excellent.
I am not from St. Louis, so therefore emos is not my thing.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Talk about that in our class? I think we talked about the butter and coffee thing in our class that you were talking about earlier. But anyway, yeah, if you guys have any questions, I'm open to hear them, but I don't want to steal too much of Kyle's time because I know Angular is super fun. Nobody but Sean.
No question. Everyone's shy. Everyone's shy. It's okay. It's okay. This is a
okay.
big, yeah, it's a big thing. So no, awesome. Thank you for introducing yourself.
We'll say that I am totally down for teaching to a class of animal faces. So I'm open to that. All right, I will let y'all get back to work.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Kristen. All right, I'm going to start sharing my screen again here. So like I said, an amazing replacement. So you all, hopefully you're going to love her, but she is awesome. We had a long conversation and everything. So you all are definitely going to be in good hands. So that is it for announcements on my end. Any final questions before we go ahead and hop into it as always? Am I just hearing crickets out there? All right.
I have one quick question, Kyle.
What's going on?
Is the bonus mission required for assignment 6? It's not, right? Or is it? Okay.
Clark's shaking his head. No, it is absolutely not. It is for you and you alone to continue on past what is required. So if you want to keep testing yourself. Highly recommend it. They're fun. They really cause good headaches. So I'd say enjoy it, but completely up to you. All right. Great, great. Okay. Everybody ready for this? Awesome. All right. Let's hop into Angular Part 2. Previously on Angular Part 2, my slides broke. There we go. We created a form here. So we created an adopt a pet. It's going to look a little different. We didn't do the side-by-sides here, but we created my form, and this was the form to adopt a pet. So we had our first name, last name. Let me see what else we had on there. Let me see. Oh, I don't have my thing open. I apologize. We had our first name, last name, phone number, email, something like that, and they all went down. So we created this form. If we remember, this is the code that we used to create it. Now, if we look at it, it's a div, and it's an H3, a form, and inside that form, we have another div, but we have some interesting stuff looking inside of there. Now, my previous class, they weren't so lucky because these slides were actually made to answer another question that we didn't really make those email input, labeled input things very customizable, but we got to do that in the last class. So these slides are kind of moot to everyone. So I don't get to explain too much about this. So we're going to hop over this, and I want to start hearing from you all. If we look at this code right here, I do want to know, to make sure we're still on the same page, what this little thing is called.
That's the tag, right?
It's a tag, but we call this particular tag something very specific in Angular.
A component?
Component too.
Very good, absolutely correct. It is a component. So remember, components are what we use now in Angular to build our HTML. Components are much more reusable, recyclable, we can save the planet with them, and also they cut down on so much time by able to being plugged in wherever we need them. So we no longer need to create 1,000 different text fields on those tax forms, we can just use one. That's what those components are for. So let's keep hopping into this. Let's see how much we remember from Angular. What command do we run to create a component? We're going to need it today.
In G
Well, first you navigate to the folder you want to create it in.
Well, that,
Okay.
but pretend we're already there. But I heard G, so ng, G, but also what is G short for?
Generate.
Very good, ng generate, awesome. And then what comes after that?
Component.
Component.
Good. Component. Awesome. We have to tell it what to what to component. We have to tell it what to generate. Awesome. And then after that, we plug in the component's name. So this right here is the command that we're going to be using to create components. Again, this thing not only creates the forms that we need to build the component, but also does some back-end work for us. Angular takes a lot of that weight off our shoulders. So that's really nice. Which file do we put all of our JavaScript in?
The app component.ht. Well, no, right, I don't know.
It's kind of a tricky question. Which one out of our components, pretend our component is called component name, comp name, what file, I'll even take the extension.
.js.
Component.cts.
I think I heard it. Yes. The component-name.component.ts. TS for TypeScript. When I said JavaScript, technically we're putting JavaScript in there with a TypeScript sugarcoating on top of it. So yeah, that is what we're putting here. All right, last but not least, help me out here. How do we start up our Angular server?
ng-serve.
Very good, everyone. Absolutely. ng-serve. So to do that, real quick, if you were with me in studio, I forgot to do this every single time. Also, my computer's running super slow today. I'm going to go ahead and ng-serve. If you want to follow along today, again, feel free to pull the most current changes from lecture 18-Angular on my GitHub. That is where that code is at. I pushed those changes actually before lecture. I apologize. I didn't push them right after. So feel free to pull in those and follow along. So I'm going to go and run ng-serve, and we're going to see what we were left with last time. And of course, it's going to take a while. If you're coming to studio review tonight, please bring dad jokes or any kind of jokes in general, because we have to do a lot of ng-serves and they take forever to load up. So, and Micah, love the horse head. Or is it a cow head? I can't tell.
Cow.
It's one. Cow. All right. Awesome. And then also it's just whenever you answer too, it's just very direct. Like, I'm a cow. Like, don't disrespect. Love it. All right. Compiled successfully. Let's hop over to our terminal here. Oh, I already have it open. Again, my computer's just being super slow today. Because I didn't do something. I knew it. I knew I was going to forget something here. Let me go ahead and remove that. I was testing some stuff out before lecture here, and that's what I need. I didn't even see that. Pretend you didn't even see that. Go back over here. Refresh. Everyone's looking at their screen like, what did I just not see? Stop it. You don't want to see it. All right. This is the form now we're going to be working with today. So remember from last class, we have our name, age, email, and phone number, and then the button that says submit the application. If we come back over to our components, let's go ahead and take a look at it. By the way, this is going to be a more in-depth on coding lecture today. You're not going to be seeing many slides. So if you do really want to follow along, it's going to be all from Visual Studio Code. All right. So in our app.component.html, remember that we have our labeled inputs here. And we saw at the very end of class how we were able to customize that with our data label attribute here. We come up here to our HTML. This is what we utilized last time to create that form. We took in my tag name, and then the placeholders and the IDs right there were whatever that variable was. So this is how we made it customizable. And again, we were able to plug it in 4 times automatically instead of recreating it 4 times. So just want to do a quick review of what we saw last class before we hop into what we're going to be doing today. So any questions about any of this? Oakley dokley. Let's go and see what we're actually going to do today. We get to do arts and crafts. Yes, it's one of those things. Get out that finger paint, because today we're going to be creating a dashboard. So what we're going to be looking at today is that we're going to be creating a way to add the pets, essentially, that are ready for adoption. So we're going to have cats and dogs today. So what we're looking at here is a dashboard that's going to have a radio button that we already know what that is, that you can pick cat or dog, and we're going to have a list of pets already there. Now, what you can do is that whenever the user goes ahead and clicks on the add button of that text box, we're going to be adding a pet to it. So that is what we're going to be building today. So is everybody ready to get started? Awesome. Let's go ahead and do this. So if we come over to what we already have, and I'm going to go and clean up where all
if you don't mind me asking a question,
yeah,
what
John.
was the square bracket? Why was there square bracket around the ID?
Remember, square brackets around the ID are there in order to denote that this value here refers to a variable in our TS file. Note how it says my tag name here. The HTML, so the brackets around it is saying that, hey, my tag name is not a string, it's actually the name of a variable inside of my TS file. So go and get that and plug it in as my ID, and also plug it in as my placeholder. So it's how you tell Angular to go get a variable name of whatever is provided here in this string.
Oh, and it doesn't use the there's not an input decorator because that's a basic HTML. That's an HTML attribute. If you're pulling a variable as an attribute, then you don't need the input decorator.
If you are referring to a variable at all in your TS, I would recommend including that decoration on your attribute regardless, so you can tell Angular that. I've not tried it out with a off-the-wall attribute yet, but however, I would see Angular keeping it very consistent with that. So I'd say you want to most likely try it with a decoration first.
Wait, I'm at the decorator with the like at input thing, not the brackets.
Oh, are you talking about the attribute within the TS component?
Yeah, in the TS file there isn't the at input, is there?
No. We don't have any of those annotations inside of here. Do you have an additional question about that?
Yeah. So and so I'm saying so that it doesn't involve that part with the at input, and it's because it's pulling into something that's a basic HTML attribute.
I believe you're correct. I'll validate that to the point where I'm not using any of those input annotations at all in Angular. Again, my Angular knowledge only goes up to the point I don't use the at input decorators or annotations. So no, it sounds correct. However, take it with a grain of salt. I do not know for sure, and I can't confirm it.
One last question, picking off of what I was saying last time. So, if you, I see that you have a constructor and using that my tag name, but I guess if you were to add a spot, just if you were to create the ID, like as you were creating those HTML tags, you wouldn't need the square bracket, right? Then,
if you didn't want to plug in the value of whatever we're passing in there as the value of the ID, you do not have to provide the square brackets.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so those square brackets will plug in whatever the value of my tag name is into this ID attribute. If you just want to plug it into whatever, or you just want to make your own for whatever reason, you take out the square brackets, you provide your own value, and it goes like that.
Got it.
All right. Awesome. So let's go ahead and we're going to start hopping into creating the dashboard here. So like we just saw on our PowerPoint here, we are going to be creating this form today with those two radio buttons and then a list of values, as well as our input at the very end. So we're going to build this piece by piece. First things first, I need to go ahead and do what to start making this thing in general? What do you feel like I'm going to have to do?
Turn on your computer.
Yes. Thank you very much, Sean. Yes, absolutely. I have to create a component. So everybody out there is pretty energetic today. I'm watching you guys. Where was this like a few weeks ago? Everyone finally found coffee, and also the sun's still out. All right, we're going to go ahead and create that component. So I'm going to write ng, G for generate, component. And then I'm going to just call this pet dashboard. Just like that. Press enter. It's going to create that component for us. So in the meantime, also I'm going to write ng serve so we don't have to wait. And we're going to come back over to the code, and we're going to notice that pet dashboard component has been created. Awesome. Now, if I go into its HTML, remember the HTML is where everything is going to be viewed. It says pet dashboard works. Well, that's awesome, but if I go over to my actual HTML and I refresh this, I see that nothing actually changes. Well, I gotta wait for ng serve to actually compile, please. But if this actually ran, we would see that nothing has changed. And this is because if we come over to the code, this component has not been utilized just yet. So if that's the case, let's go ahead and utilize this component. Now, if we want to see where the component is actually, or how it's referred to as, we go to the TS file and we see that its selector, okay, its tag name, or we want to call the element name here, is app-pet-dashboard. So if we're going to use this anywhere in any of our HTML, we need to include this entire name. So I'm going to go and copy this. And I'm going to come down here to our app.component.html, our base layer here. Then what I'm going to do, unfortunately, we're going to have to remove all this for today. I'm going to go ahead and paste in our app-pet-dashboard here. And I'm going to go ahead and close it up. I'm going to save that, come back over, and refresh, and I see that my pet-dashboard works. So all we did, oh, and I'm also going to continue cleaning this up. I'm going to remove that form also there. So that's what I did there to my app.component.html. Now, we have to work step by step when we are working with component-based technologies like Angular. So we have been able now to implement the component. We see that it works reflective on our HTML page. So now we can start actually creating what we want the user to see. Now, if I go over to our actual slide here, if I can find our slide again, there we go. I'm going to try to find the low-hanging fruit. Right now, I don't really want to do the inputs too much, but I can do these lists. I can talk about my pets. So that's what I'm going to go ahead and do first. We're going to do the list of pets first. So in order to do that, what I'm going to do is hop up here to Pet Dashboards component. And what I need to do to contain those pet names is I'm going to create 2 different lists. Well, we're just going to do one actually right now. I'm going to say dogs. Just like that. So we have dogs, and it's going to be an array of strings. So for our example's sake, what we're going to be doing is just going to set some values into that dogs array. You've seen this many times before. We're just going to set values into that array. We're going to say Stark here, and we'll say Bella. Anybody else got a dog name out there? Something I can spell?
Zeus.
L-L-A. Yeah, I was going to say Zoe.
Oh, okay. I heard Zeus, and I'll put Zoe in there too. There we go. 2 Z's. All right. Awesome, awesome. So we got 4 dogs here. Let's go ahead and see how we can actually display them on our form. I don't know why. I have like mental gaps today. So if I keep pausing, just like, okay, where's that word? I'm like searching and grasping for it right now. All right. So let's hop into our HTML. Now, if you remember our studio from last week, if we wanted to do this right now, what we could do is, excuse me, this is actually going to turn this over to you. How do I, as I put the answer out there, how do I include information from my TS file in my HTML file? What 2 symbols do I start and end with to do so?
Double curly brackets.
Double curly brackets, absolutely correct. Very good. So open and close double curly brackets. This is going to tell Angular that I want to include a variable from my TS class. That variable I want to do is dogs. Now, dogs is an array. I don't want to just display an entire weird looking array out of my form. People are going to see this. My mom might see this. So I want it to look pretty. So I say dogs, and I want it to display a single dog name. So what I can do is open and close square bracket for bracket notation and paste my dog 0 in there. Now, if we look at our TS file, what dog is in the 0th index?
Stark.
Stark, very good. So if we come over here, we should see Stark, and that's exactly what we see. That's awesome. So if I wanted to come back over here to my HTML and display all of them, paste those in there just like that. We have 1 and 2. We had 4, right? Save that, come back over, and I refresh this. I see that all of my dogs are displayed. Now, if you think about how many dogs are possibly in the state of Missouri, or let alone just across maybe the national portion, how many dog names do you think a poor Humane Society developer is going to have to type? Quite a bit of dog names. And there's some dog names out there that are not spelt very fun, so it's going to be very, very troublesome. So we have to notice that this is extremely repetitive work. And if we come over here, anybody remember from our JavaScript days, like way back in the day, what are we doing between line 1 and 4? What are we doing to those indexes between the square brackets?
Iterating through the array.
Yeah, we're just iterating through it, right? We're just iterating through the array. Absolutely right. So what tool do we use to simplify this kind of action?
The aim for a loop.
A loop, the for loop. And I heard someone already say it, the ng for loop. Angular comes with a way to do a for loop inside of HTML that we can utilize to build our HTML a little bit faster instead of having to type all this out line by line. So that command we're going to be learning today is ng4, but it goes inside as an annotation. So for this one, I'm just going to put P here for paragraph just for a moment, and I'm going to start writing this for statement. To do so, with any of these special statements we're going to be learning about today, they'll begin with an asterisk. So this one in particular is going to be asterisk, ng, both lowercase, capital F, OR, equals, and then it's going to be a string. And this is where the fun stuff happens. So when we iterate on it with a for loop, we have to iterate over an array. That array is dogs, and we're pulling out individual dogs one by one out of that array. Now, when we do that, remember, we have to have what that dog we just pulled out of the array is. We have to have some kind of reference to it. So what we need to do first is create a variable called let dog, or let whatever arbitrary variable name you want. So let dog, and then you say of, because we're doing a for of loop, let dog of dogs, the actual variable you want to pull out. If this looks familiar to you, like you've done this in JavaScript, you absolutely have. What we're doing is really working with a language that's like JavaScript with Angular to produce some kind of action. In this case, iterate through our dogs array. So again, you already know how to insert information into a HTML document using Angular with those double curly brackets. And now we want to insert the information in here. Anybody have an idea of what we're going to put inside these double curly brackets?
Just maybe dog's eye.
Dog, and then square bracket, and
then I.
So I like that, but remember, we're not using any I here. There is no indication of any variable called I. The variable we've created here, exactly right. The variable we've created is called dog in this abbreviation, or in this little statement right here. So we actually say dog here, just like that. Now what I'm going to do is remove these here, press save, come back over, and we see we have our list. Well, let it refresh here. We still have our list of dogs produced. Now the nice thing is that if I go back over to our TS and I add a new one, maybe good old Toby comes in, and I save this, I just had to type 6 different keystrokes to type in Toby. I come back over here and I see Toby's automatically put in there because our for loop is iterated through and it's inserted in there. This just saved us a lot of time. A couple microseconds or a couple milliseconds. That's a lot in a developer's perspective, just saying. So that is how we can create a list using the for loop. So I'm going to pause here for just a moment. Any questions on the for loop that we just saw? I'll go back over to the code if I can find it. And I will also make it a little bit bigger. I know my special trick now. I can't do it. Maybe it doesn't want me to do it today. There it goes. No. Now I got it. My computer's just being extremely slow. It just knows when you guys have to like meet with me or something and just like, nah, not today. All right. Any questions on what we just saw here? I see one person typing, and let them go, and then we will continue.
Can I see the other page where we put the list of dogs' names again?
Absolutely. That's going to be in our TS file right there. So I got a question here from Sydney. Will the variable in the curly brackets always match the for loop? The variable in the curly brackets that we place there will match the variable that you created for that for. So to explain that a little bit better, dog here refers to this dog. If I change this to pizza, I have to change this to pizza. That's how the relationship is there. So we'll let you take in that slice of pizza right there. Sydney, does that help out a little bit? Awesome. Joe, can I see the loop again? Okay, good. That is what we're viewing right now. All right, we're gonna have to continue on here. Any final questions before we, all right. So I'm gonna go ahead and change this back to dog just so we can keep it, because unfortunately we're not pulling out slices of pizza out of the dogs right. That would probably just smell terrible. All right, so we saved that and we're gonna continue on here. So let's go and look back at, I keep swiping the wrong way. Looking back at our form, so we are now creating that list of pets. Awesome. So we said we wanted to type in a pet's name, click add, and then insert it. So let's go ahead and work with that now in order to have some more fun with this list. So let's actually learn what to do whenever a user types this in and does clicks of the button. So I'm gonna pause here also. I wanna ask, what were all those things? I was trying not to say that word. What are all these things? When people type into a text box, when they click the add button, what is exactly occurring?
User input.
Event.
Starts with E. Very good. Events. Remember, events. They are extremely, extremely important in UI work because it's exactly how the user interacts with your page. It's how a purchase is made. It's how information is found. Events, always events. And today, that is what we're going to learn with Angular. You already know how to do it in pure JavaScript, but today, how do we exactly do it in an Angular framework? So let's go ahead and take a look at that. Before we even talk about events, we need to make it visible to the user for something for them to interact with. If we look at our form here, we have a input text box and a button. Help me out with the text box. What do I need to start writing in my HTML to create this? What tag do I start with?
Input.
Absolutely right, input. We start with the input tag to start creating a text box. What comes after the input tag? What attribute do we always need to add in an input tag?
Type.
Text.
Very good. Type. We need to tell this thing what to transform into. And what is the attribute value that we need to add here for it to turn into that thing that I don't want to say out loud because it's the answer? Text. Very good. Absolutely right. Text. Fantastic. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and end this one right here. Save that. Go back over to our Angular form. Let it refresh. And we see we have an amazing looking text box right there. Awesome. We are well on our way. I'm going to zoom in a little bit on that one too. Awesome. All right. So next thing we need is a button here that says add. Now, how would I do this exactly?
Button.
You need a
We could do button. I like that actually. Before, I was going to see if anyone was going to say it. We could have done the submit button if we wanted to. So we do input type submit. But for this one, we're not really sending any posts over, or we're not trying to do any gets. We're really just trying to do some events. So I like that idea. We're going to do a button here. So how we do that is we say button, and really that's it. Right now, that is all we're going to do. So we say button, and we say add. Awesome. Oop, wrong way again. So we do that, and we now see a text box, and it says add. Awesome, awesome, awesome. All right. So moving on, making sure that I have the correct. There we go. All right. So now what we need to do is that we need to talk about when this button gets clicked. When I press this, an event occurs. What kind of event is occurring whenever I click this button here called add?
Click.
A click. Very good. A click. So just like an event listeners was asking for what kind of event am I listening for, in Angular, we also need to provide what kind of event needs to trigger, or what an event needs to do on, or excuse me, what needs to happen if an event occurs. The event we're talking about today is click. In order to do that in Angular, what we do is that we put the event type in parentheses. So we say click, and then we say equals, and then this is where the fun part is. This is where we tell it what function to call. This may look very, very similar to the onClick attribute that you might have worked with back in our JavaScript HTML days before Angular. In this one for Angular, we put in parentheses, we put the event type, and we say equals and to the specific function we want to do. So for this one, we want to call it to a function maybe called add pet. I'll put open and close parentheses there because it's a function. I'm going to go ahead and press save. Awesome. Now, let's go back over to our form here and see what happens. I'm going to type in test here and press add. Take a look at what happens on the right-hand side here. It says that add pet is not a function. We told it to call to the add pet function, but there's no one around to hear that because add pet doesn't exist yet. So now we have to go ahead and add this function in there. So hopping down, or now we need to actually add that. Where do we exactly add that? We're going to add it in our TS file here. This is where we include any functions that we want something to happen on those events. So we say add pet, just like that. Now, once we do this, we actually need to make sure it works. So let's go and do a console log. So we say console log, I was clicked. Save that. And now we have our add pet function created. We're gonna come back over here, wait for it to refresh. I'm just gonna click add and take a look at our console. It says I was clicked. The event has now occurred. The function was triggered and it was written out to the console that it was clicked. So we have our event actually starting to work now. So I'm gonna pause here for a question, or pause here for a moment. Any questions on what we just saw there? All right, showing the HTML. So cool. We are now able to do events in our, do events inside of our Angular. Now, in order to add a pet in there, what you could do in these parentheses is you could put in something in a single quote or something like that and just say my dog name or something like that. And what this would do is that you're sending back parameters inside of those parentheses back into the function. So we save that. Come back over here just to show you this real quick. My pet name. And we're going to just console log my pet name. Now we're able to pass in the parameters into the actual function itself here. Save that. Come back over to our form. Refresh that. Press add, and it says my dog name. Exactly what I put in those single quotes. So this is just showing that we are able to pass through parameters now. So let's go ahead and move a little further. Like, this is awesome, but we still have no idea yet how we're going to get a name here into our list. So that is what we're going to be doing next. And that's where it gets a little bit fun. All right, hopping over to our HTML. When we type in stuff into our inputs, or we do something on our inputs, that information is only captured if we allow it to be captured. Remember when we do variables back in the day for JavaScript? That information with the computer is only remembered if we have a variable there to remember it. Once you assign information to a variable, it's actually contained somewhere. Your computer persists it, contains it for, well, until the page has actually been closed out. So why am I telling you this? In the input we have here for text, when I type in any kind of name, I'm trying to think of another name. I'm going to say Buddy for right now. When I type in Buddy, that's awesome. But none of this information that is provided in that text field actually gets saved anywhere. We don't have it being set to a variable. Well, luckily in Angular, there's a way to actually set variable names inside of HTML itself. So these kinds of inputs can actually persist their information while the page is loaded or being ran. So let's go ahead and take a look now at how we do that inside of Angular. We need to contain whatever is inside this input tag here, this text box, inside of a variable. To do that, what we do is define the variable name by saying hashtag my pet name, or something like that. We'll just say pet name instead. Right here is how we can say, hey, whatever's contained in this input, save it to this variable called pet name. So we are now able to contain the information inside of the input. Now we can use it anywhere we want. That place where I want to use it is where inside of this function here, this add pet function. I need to get whatever name they just put inside that text box to my function so I can do something with it. So in order to do that, we pass it just like how we were in JavaScript, except it looks a little weird because we're in a string. But what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to just pass in pet name here. So take a close look at that. I set a variable here in my input. Remember, whatever happens in that input HTML tag is saved inside of my variable called pet name. And now I'm passing it into my add pet function. So something's being passed to that function, and I want to see what it is. So before we ask for any questions, let's go ahead and see what that exactly is. What I'm going to do is I'm going to just console log my pet name once again here. I haven't changed the code. And let's go ahead and see what we get in our console log. Can anyone tell me what they think they're going to see in the console log if I type in buddy? Anybody got an idea?
Should see buddy.
Should see buddy.
Yeah.
Pet name?
What we're actually going to see is the entire input tag itself that contains buddy. So technically you're right, but we get a lot more than just that back. I should start taking bets, virtual brownie point bets. No, what we're going to get back is the entire input tag itself. So if I told you we get element by ID, whatever, my text box, how do we get buddy out of that? What do we do to that element? What's the thing that we put?
Dot value.
Value.
Very good. Oh my gosh. Air high five to all y'all. Yes, dot value. So we know in this HTML here, pet name is the representation of that input. So what we want to do is actually type in dot value here instead. Or excuse me, as an addition. So now we're actually able to pass the contents back through the function. So let's go ahead and say that again. Come back over here and go one more time. Anybody want to take another brownie point bet? Because y'all would win anyway. It's going to be buddy. So that's how we get that information from the text box, pass it into that function, and get it back into our TypeScript file. The beauty about this is that once it's in the TypeScript file, you can go crazy. You know how to program in JavaScript. You can do anything with buddy. You can capitalize it. You can turn it all to uppercase, all to lowercase, whatever you want to do. It's now inside of JavaScript. And that is the beauty of Angular, let alone just passing through things through those functions, because once it's on the JavaScript side, it's so much easier to do data manipulation than doing it on the HTML side. So when you have that chance, pass it over to the JavaScript side as soon as you possibly can and do with that stuff what you will over there instead. So that being said, let's hop into our TS now where we're getting buddy back, and let's do something to it. Remember, what information is being shown to our screen? Where is all of this stuff stored at? Who remembers that variable name?
Dogs.
It's just dogs. Very good. Absolutely right. So yeah, it is the array of dog names that we're creating up here. But we have a new dog name that just came into town that's being passed into this parameter right here. So what could we do to it in order for it to now display on our screen?
Can you add it?
Push.
We absolutely can. We say this.dogs.push in my pet name. Just like that. I'm going to go ahead and comment that out there. Let's go and see this thing in action. Come over here, let it refresh. We'll type in buddy, press add, and finally, now buddy has been welcomed to the community. So that is right there. And not only that, we got to see this dynamically update right in there without having to like type in those hefty, long like lines of HTML and strings and things like that we saw in the previous section, which makes Angular so powerful because it really does simplify this work.
So if you refresh, does buddy stay or does buddy go away?
It does not persist because everything gets reloaded, including that array. So unfortunately it does not. We will discover in Unit 2 how to make that persist. But as of right now, when you refresh your page, that information gets reloaded. So it only sees the original 5 dog names. Very good question.
Could I see the code one more time, please?
Absolutely. Any other questions? There we go. All right.
So you pushed it into this .dogs, but it won't stay?
You do. but remember when you refresh your page, as basically like telling Replit to run again. You stop Replit and you run it again. So whatever information when there was before, it gets removed and it's a fresh slate. So no, it will not persist because it starts all over again from brand spanking new, and it will only know these 5 dogs. Yep. So remember, when you refresh your page, you're basically telling that application to start on over. Awesome, awesome. Great questions there. All right. Let's go ahead and keep moving on here. So we have now been able to add the dog to our list, but we are missing one vital piece here. We need, and I always do this, we need to give the cats some love. We actually need to pay attention to them, even though they don't like it all the time. We need to make a list for our cats. So let's go ahead and do that. So for this one, what I'm going to go ahead and do is say cats. I'm going to have another array of string of cats. And this is where I'm going to need your all's help here. Cats equal. And then what are some cats names? I'm going to do Winston because if I had a cat, it'd be Winston. Stella, all right.
Dexter.
Dexter.
Yiffy.
Mo.
Ravioli.
Oh gosh. Ravioli. Is that it? No, dang it. I told you guys no words I can't spell.
Yiffy. Oh, you got it right. It's fine.
Is that Giphy? Giffy? Like, almost like the peanut butter? We're going with Giphy. All right. We have our 4 cat names. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is that we need to display our cats. So what I'm going to do is just copy what we did before, because as developers, remember, we get to be extremely lazy. And we say let cat of cats and press save there. Now, if we come back here and we see everything refresh, we see that we have 2 lists. We have our dogs up here and our cats down here. And if we add something down here, it goes to our dogs because we haven't changed any of that code. It still just pushes to dogs. So again, we need to make this page viable for cats and dogs, but also they don't really get together very often. So let's go ahead and separate them. So depending on, and we'll go back over to our form, not what I wanted. There we go. Depending on our form here with our radio buttons, if cat or dog is selected, that's how we are going to want to, how we're going to want to display our lists. So let's go ahead and do that. What I'm going to do is come over to TS, and first things first, I need to know if or if not dogs, I'm going to just go with dogs here because, you know, dog lover, dogs are wanting to be displayed. So what I'm going to put up here is an I'll say show dogs as a Boolean. And I'm going to set this dot show dogs to true. Just for right now. So by default, whenever my class is being constructed, we should always be showing the dogs, not the cats. So that's what I have here. Now that's cool. We created our variable within our TypeScript, but it doesn't matter if our HTML doesn't have any idea about it. So now we're going to go back to our HTML, and we're going to be telling it, okay, if dogs, or I say show dogs, then show our dogs. If not, show the cats. So that's what we're going to do now. In order to do that, if I ask you a question, should I show the dogs or should I not show the dogs, we are talking about what kind of tool to use. We ask questions. We ask questions. We have to make a decision, validate.
It's a conditional.
It's a conditional, very good. When we need to validate something, check something, to see if something should do something. Any of these kinds of terminologies come out of your mouth, you most likely are going to be working with a conditional. So here we need to check if I should be showing the dogs. So to do that, I need to start out, of course, with a tag. And this one, I'm going to just put a div here. And I'm going to say, or in this case now, I need to start writing my if statement. To start writing if statements, just like the for statements, I start with an asterisk and then an ng. And then, of course, I place if with a capital I there, equals, and then a string. Awesome. Inside of this string is the conditional that you need to ask in order to say, yes, I should show this, or no, just continue on. So what I actually want to ask is show dogs equals to true? just like that. Awesome. So if it's true, then show the dogs here. Now, if I show you this again real quick, nothing's going to be changing in our form itself, unless it's going to yell at me with an error. Because technically, dogs is still true. Show dogs is true. And we haven't wrapped cats in anything. So technically, we'll still be displaying this one and that one. But if we come over here and we say false, only show the dogs is false, meaning show the cats. We come back over to our form, and we see that only the cats are shown now. So awesome. It sees that our if statement, or we are actually being able to see now that our if statement is actually working. So real quick, what I'm going to do is copy exactly what I did here, paste it in here for false, show dogs is false, and then we'll show the cats.
False is misspelled.
So now you know spell false now? It's false. It's a cool way now. All right, so we have that, and let's go ahead and here we have our show dogs as true. Save that. Come back over. Refresh, and we see only dogs now. Come back over. We change this back to false. Save that. Come over, and we see now Mr. Winston is right there. So this right here is how we do conditionals within HTML statements inside of Angular. So any questions on this?
Is there any way that you can split the screen so we can see both at the same time, possibly?
Unfortunately, I cannot. I apologize. I can only swipe, mainly because if I separated my very small screen already, I wouldn't have any room to type. But it will always be on the recording also. I'll open this up just a little bit. Yeah, I apologize. I cannot do that.
Wouldn't the conditional in this case be, you'd be checking for the state of the radio button? So basically, I would just say if dogs is off or not checked, then
so we haven't done the radio buttons. So we haven't done the radio buttons yet, Jody. So hold on.
But I would. Okay, you had mentioned radio buttons, so I was like, wouldn't you just check?
No, all good. No, we haven't done it yet. So I love that, and it's a great transition into the next part, which I'll pause just for a moment before we get there. But yeah, you're absolutely right. We will be doing that. Any other questions on these conditionals before we start to see something even more fun with conditionals and inputs?
Can I see the final result one more time?
So what, in this case, you just checked for the Boolean, the state of the Boolean in this case? Is that what you, because I can't see your code. So
correct.
You just.
So the Boolean inside of the class. So we added that show dogs class variable Boolean data type, and we set it to true or false if we wanted it to switch back and forth. So we're using the
and
class
your conditional
variable
just checked for the state of the Boolean.
Correct. Yep.
Okay.
Absolutely correct. All right. Awesome. So, as we have been waiting for, yeah, this is it. There we go. As the screen's been waiting for, we need to now do the very top part here, the two radio buttons for cat and dog. So let's go ahead and do that. And depending on which one is toggled, that's what we're actually going to show. So up here, what we can do is we're going to create two input buttons. So we're going to say input, type, and then what is the type of those buttons?
Radio.
Very good. Radio, absolutely right. And then who can tell me one of the two other attributes that we absolutely need to have for these radio buttons?
Got to have a name.
Very good, name. And that is actually going to be your group name. So your name or the group that you're in should all have the same name. So this one is going to be pet type. Let's call it that one. Then I'm going to put an ID in here. For this one, I'm just going to call it dog. I'm going to say dog. Just like that. Awesome. I'm going to copy this whole thing, save us a little bit of time, change dog to cat. I'm going to save that, and as always, we take baby steps. So let's go over here and see if it's actually there. Awesome, dog and cat. And if I click on them, it looks like they do toggle properly, meaning both of them cannot be selected. That is one big thing to check on radio buttons. Make sure they are not both selected. Awesome. All right. So for this now, we need to be able to toggle our show dogs Boolean in our class. So one way we could do this is that whenever a specific radio button is clicked, we could toggle our class variable. Remember, we want to try to move this into JS as much as possible. There are also a couple of ways that we can do this in HTML, but let's go ahead and do what we have learned with events. So what we're going to do is say click equal, and then I'm going to just create an arbitrary function name here. I'm going to say toggle pet type. Open and close parentheses. I haven't put anything in the parentheses. Note that. I will do that in a moment. So I created toggle pet name, or pet type, excuse me. And now I need to add it to my TS file. There we go. Now that I'm in here and I've actually created the function, what do I need to add as my parameter? That's what I need to ask myself. In this case, I need to know if or if not they want me to show the dogs. So I'm going to say show dogs as my parameter. And then whatever they pass in here, I'm going to set that to this.showDogs equal show dogs. So what I'm doing is I'm updating my class variable, show dogs, with whatever's passed in through the function, also called show dogs. So there we go. Now I added a parameter to this function, but I have not done it in my HTML yet. So that's the final thing I need to do. If they click on dog, they clearly want us to show the dogs. So we say true. If they click on cat, they clearly don't want to see dogs. They're more of a cat person, so let's show them the cats. We say false here for that. All right. Saving that, hopping back over to the code, or hopping back over to the actual page itself, we see that dog is selected, and then cat is selected, and shows us the proper results. Look at that. Isn't that just fun? Now we can see our actual stuff, and it's dynamic, so it changes depending on whatever my event tells my function to do. Now, with a little bit of time we have left here, one more thing I want to show you all just for a little extra bonus is that if we add Buddy here, it adds to the dog list. But if we add it to cat, we'll say Toby over here, you see that it doesn't do anything over in cat. It adds it back to dog. So our final little piece, let's go ahead and see why it does that and how we can change that. All of that pushing into the array happens in our TS file, in our JavaScript. And it goes in, if we recall, it's in the add pet function here. Remember, we're only pushing those pet names to the dog array right now. But it's not always dogs anymore. It's also cats out there. And the way we can differentiate which one they want is with a variable we've already created, which is show dogs. We know that if show dogs is true, they're on the dog list. They're on the dog list, we should add the dog name to the dog list. If show dogs is false, they're on the cat list. If they add a name, it's not for the dogs, it's for the cats. So we add it to the cat names. So what we can do here is we can check with a conditional, saying if this dot show dogs equals to true. And also you don't need to put the triple equals to true if you don't want to. I'm just doing it for simple for clarification there. So if show dogs is true, then we push it to the dogs array. Otherwise, we say this dot cats dot push my pet name. We save that. Awesome. Let's go and see this thing in action. We come over here to dog, and we say Buddy. Press add. Come over here to cat. Someone give me a cat name.
Luna.
I love it, Luna. Press add. We see that Luna is in the cat list. We go back and forth, and we see that they both are still there. And voila! We are now able to take in pets to adopt. Awesome. All right. So what we just saw were for loops, we saw if statements, and we saw events here. So any questions about any of the things that we talked about so far? Anybody got a headache? That's a lot of stuff. Anything at all?
What was the ng on initiate again? What did that do?
This one,
right
whenever
there?
this component is created, this function is ran. So think of it as like the event of when a window has been finished loading, which we're all familiar with after assignment 5. This is like whenever it's done being created, this thing gets triggered, this function gets triggered.
Okay, gotcha. Thank you.
Absolutely. There's many other questions.
You just taught it so well, we don't have many, you know?
That's what I'm afraid of. Yeah. I don't think about that. All right. I'm either that or I'm going to have 79 students in my studio review. So just double checking. Okay. So for that is all I have. There are some extra things that you can also do out there with NG. If anyone's on the NG template thing out there, NG template is out there to write essentially small template files for variables. We can dive into that a little bit deeper, I think, in studio, but also in next lecture too. And also else statements too. We can see the else statements. See if I can do that. I was seeing if I could do that one again. I'm give or take on some of the Angular stuff. So let me see if I can do that. Let's do the else statement. If I can do that, that means lecture's over. If not, well, lecture's still over. So show dogs equals to true. And then what we can do here, as you know, if statements can have else statements. How we do an else statement is that we can do a semicolon there, and then we can put which variable we want to execute after that. So we say a variable name. So for this one in particular, we can say show my cats. So show my cats is not a variable we've created. If you're asking yourself, where's this thing? We haven't created it yet. So let's copy that. And what we want is this thing down here, this div, to actually become that variable. So we took out that if statement. And I'm going to see if this works. I don't think it did. I think I'm doing something wrong now that I remember. So I might just be embarrassing myself here. Oh, that's because I didn't put else. There you go. All right, say else show cats, and let's see if this actually works before we go back and do it. Must be template. Oh, it does have to be a template ref. That's right. That's where we do it. ng-template. Let's try that again. Fingers crossed. Dog. Cat. I did it. I mean, guys, come on. This was so easy. Yes, thank you. Standing ovation. All right. So what I just saw too, if anyone saw that error on the right-hand side, when I did it with a div, you're not actually able to do it with that div. You have to do it with the ng template. I'm sure any Angular developer out there that's TA is like, come on, you should know that. Did not know that specifically. We're learning together. That's what's fun about this. So ng template is what we actually need to utilize. So if you want to do an else statement, this is how you write that else statement. To reference this else statement, you type in that semicolon. Don't forget about that semicolon. Type in else, and then the variable of that template that you're trying to refer to. I believe this might pop its head out in the studio tonight, so I'm happy actually we went over this. So that being said, that is officially all I have for you all tonight, and we are finished. So any final questions before I let you all go?
You're going to push your code soon, right?
You know what? I will do that right now because I didn't do it last time like I promised. So how do we push our code? What's the first thing we add? I'll run our git status for us. We had a lot of stuff today. What's the first thing we run?
Git add dot.
Git add dot. Let's just make sure it got everything. It did get everything. Perfect. All right. What's the next thing?
Git commit.
Git commit dash M. We did it. Awesome. All caps. And then what's the final thing we do?
And then git push.
Very good, everyone. Git push. Oop.
I think I've done that so many times I can like dream about like the steps for committing something.
Oh, absolutely. And it doesn't get any better. So good to just remember. You'll be like doing it by heart, just like not even remembering that you did it. There you go. So also, if you are looking for this code, big announcement here. If you're looking for this code, it is not going to be on the main branch. It is going to be on the Lecture 19 branch. Lecture 19 branch. So you're not going to see any of these changes on the main branch if you're there. Just
so if
FYI.
we're doing review then, Kyle, like tomorrow I was going to look at I was going to look at Monday's lecture. So Monday's lecture is on 18 and then this lecture is not? Okay.
They are both on the repository Lecture 18 Angular. This code tonight was on a different branch. So I'm going to show you that. Git branch If you look at the branches, if you pull this project right now, there are 2 branches, main and lecture 19. Now we're going to continue this fun quiz session. If I wanted to check out main right now, how would I do that?
I have to go into it, but I don't know how.
Check out main.
Very good. Get check out main. Now if I do get branch, we see that main is now in green. And if we go back to our code, we have a slight heart attack because all of our code is gone. And it's because all that code exists on a different branch. So if we wanted that code to come back, we do get checkout what? Or, well, I guess it's very small. So I'm going to say get checkout lecture 19, lecture dash 19. That is the branch. We do that. We come back over, and our heart attack is reduced because pet dashboard is back. Awesome.
Hey, Kyle,
All right.
I had a quick question. Do you prefer to use Git Bash, like the actual program on your computer, or in your Visual Studio Code? Because I find that whenever I'm pulling up the server, ngserve, I can't type into the terminal anymore after it completes compiling.
You
in
cannot,
Visual
because
Studio. Okay.
You can open up another terminal, though. You're not limited to just one terminal. You can open up 2 if you'd like.
Awesome. Okay, thanks.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you're on a Mac and you have a terminal here running, you can always go up to Shell and say New Tab. You can open a new tab. I believe CMD also has that, and also in Java, in Visual Studio Code, you can open up multiple terminals to exactly do what you're trying to do, John.
Okay, so like it doesn't matter if I use ngserve on Git Bash, then I have to use the terminal in Visual Studio Code, right? Vice versa.
It does not matter, as in you can do that, yes. I would say if you're about to commit stuff, shut down your ngserve, make sure everything's okay, and then do your pushes just for good measure. But if you're just trying to commit on the fly, that's fine. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, any final questions, everyone? All right, then that is all I got for y'all today.